The Archie comics have been something that I've grown up with. I started reading them 10 plus years ago, and my sister and I would even make episodes of Betty and Veronica, a lot of them based around those comics that we had. She was Betty, I was Veronica. I might get into that a little bit later, but you could say that we actually made an Archie comics show before it became popular.
Archie! What is it? Archie, I have to talk to you quick. Talk to Betty quick, Archie. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll be back in a jiff. What is it?
How dare you! Oh! Yeah. But today we're going to talk about the other Archie Comics based show that wishes that it was as iconic as mine and my sister's Archie Comics show, Riverdale. Or as I like to call it now, Riverfail. You guys, I hate this show. I really do. It is an absolute disgrace to the Archie comics. And today, more specifically, we are going to talk about the ships of this show, the ever so infamous, popular ships of this show, and why they have gone so far downhill, and who I think should end up together at this point. We're first going to talk about why exactly these ships on this show have gone downhill in a general sense, and we're going to get into specifics when I talk about who should end up together. But in general, this is what happened. In the 3.5 seasons of this show that we've seen, the ships are now the absolute main part of the show. Even the main part of its narrative, which is not good. The story of season 4 literally revolves around these ships. Like, Betty and Jughead are doing their thing, Veronica and Archie are doing their thing, and Choni and Cheryl are doing their thing. Nobody interacts with each other anymore, besides their significant others. The people who watch Riverdale now watch it for the ships. They don't really watch it for, I would say, any other reason besides to see their ship on screen. Back in season 1, there was a good story. It was a little dumb, but it was essentially one person died and how it affects everyone and people trying to solve that mystery. And now it's just become watching whatever couples you like to see make out on screen. Even if there is other storylines, that's not why people watch. People watch to watch their favorite couples in the show. Okay, so I realized that I didn't really explain this that well, but essentially the storylines of Riverdale have gotten so weak and just so not believable that the ships are now the main reason why people watch this show. And, you know, the story of season 1, even if somebody didn't like the couples on the show, they could still enjoy it and watch it for that story. But now the stories have gotten so bad that people only watch to see the couples on the show. And the writers have realized this. So they put the couples in the forefront of the show without having much of a story at all in season 4. And this makes the couples a lot less appealing because you never see them with any other people. Like, there are no more friendships, there are no more rivalries, there are just ships. And it makes it very, very boring. Not only have the ships become the main reason why people keep watching this show, but they've also become the main aspect of the characters. And I hate that. When Riverdale started, the characters had personalities. They were relatively one-dimensional, but they still had kind of personalities that mirrored with their Archie comic counterpart. More or less. Regardless, they still were characters, and they were still different from each other and distinct. And now at this point in the show, and a while before this point in the show, none of these characters really have a personality anymore. They don't do things that make sense for their character anymore. They just do things based on the situation that they're in. Okay, sorry, I promise that this is the last time I'm gonna do this, but I realized that I didn't really explain this that well either. What I mean when I say that none of the characters have a personality anymore is that The plot points of Riverdale, even if there is no story, are still so outrageous that there's no room for character development anymore. And these characters now, their personalities change based on what the plot needs from them at that point. Like, Jughead in season 1 started off, not wanting to be in the Serpents and kind of not wanting any of that, and in season 2 he turns on a dime and is like, the Serpents are my life, they're my family. And Alice, she's a great example of her just changing based on what the plot needs at that point. Betty's Dark Betty persona, it started out as kind of a mental illness thing in season 1, but then it just turned into a sexual thing in season 2. And so many actions that these characters do based on the situations that they find themselves in are the only option. So it doesn't create any character. Of course this character reacts this way. Of course this character does this thing because that's the only option for anybody to get out of this situation or fix this situation. It's very plot driven, and maybe that's some people's thing, but these characters aren't good characters anymore. And if I don't like a character, or I'm at least not intrigued by a certain part of a character in some way, how in the world am I supposed to like a ship that they're in? How? This is also my issue with a lot of rom-coms. Like, the main part of their character is to be in love with the person that they're falling in love with, and that's it. You don't really get why these characters fell for each other. I'm not gonna generalize all rom-coms. There are also several rom-coms with characters that have personalities and their couples are genuinely cute. I think that 10 Things I Hate About You is a great example of that. It's a really good movie with good characters and genuinely good couples. But rom-coms like Endless Love are like, why do these characters even like each other? Just because they are pretty? They have absolutely no personality. Riverdale is kind of becoming that too. The main part of these characters now is to be a significant other to whoever they're shipped with in the mainstream. And that is quite tragic. And that is why the ships on Riverdale have gone way downhill, and I don't ship any of them anymore, and I haven't for a long time. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, we're now going to talk about who in the series I think should end up together, be endgame, as Veronica calls it. Gosh, her character is so insufferable, I just want to punch her every time she's on the screen! Okay, first we're going to delve into the dynamic of the core four, Archie, Betty, Jughead, and Veronica, which contains two of the show's most quintessential ships, Varchie and Bughead. I'm going to make it very, very clear right now. I really hate both of these ships. Okay. Alright. Since none of these characters really have a personality anymore, I'm going to base it off of mostly what I think about when reading the comics, and that's that Betty should be with Archie. I always rooted for Betty and Archie growing up, and I still do to this day, reading the comics, and especially in this awful show. Reading the comics, I always had this feeling in the back of my mind, and while watching the show, I just feel like it justifies this thought even more, and that is that Betty makes Archie happy in a way that Veronica just can't. This all clicked for the first time when looking at an Archie the Married Life comic. I'm gonna see if I can find it and show it to you right now. Just looking at that, Archie and Betty's love is so clearly so much more pure, so much more unconditional. Not to say that rich people can't love, because they can, but in terms of this show, Riverdale, Veronica and Archie dating has caused Archie just to have the worst life experiences while he's still a teenager. Particularly, all the stuff centering around Hiram. In the comics, it's clear that Hiram doesn't like Archie, but it's a much funnier dynamic when in the show he literally wants to murder him and make him suffer for the rest of his life for no reason. And in the show, their relationship is literally Veronica provides Archie with any financial help that he needs, and sex and lust. That's it. I'm probably going to make another video about how Veronica and Archie just suck. Now, in terms of Bughead, Betty and Jughead, I actually quite like it in the comics that Jughead is asexual, aromantic. I wish that he was that way in the show, but since the Bughead fans are just the most toxic community ever, they cannot go back, and they can't recreate his sexuality. It wouldn't work. I like how in the comics, Jughead likes Betty and respects Betty as a friend, and I wish that that friendship was in the show instead of a relationship where they have absolutely no chemistry anymore and it's just the most forced thing ever. Side note, I know that Cole Sprouse and Lily Reinhart are dating in real life. I'm not saying that the actors don't have chemistry, I'm saying that the characters don't have chemistry. There's a difference. In summary of the core four, Betty and Archie should be together romantically, and Betty and Jughead should just be really good friends. Okay, now we're gonna take a look at Veronica and all of her possible endgame options. Now I have a couple of options for who Veronica should end up with, and I'm first going to tell you probably the most controversial option, and that is that she should end up with Reggie. When I heard Riverdale fans last year say, "Oh, you only made Veronica and Reggie a thing because they're dating in real life." No, they didn't. If you read the comics, you would know that Veronica and Reggie are sky high and they have a relationship. In the comics, I always thought that it should be Betty and Archie and Veronica and Reggie, so if that transitioned to the show, I would be quite satisfied. And in fact, a main point of Reggie's character in the comics is to be another love interest for Veronica. So shipping Veronica and Reggie, or Veggie, is totally valid, even if the actors weren't dating. I could go into how they totally butchered Veronica and Reggie's relationship in season 3. Like, I was really anticipating this. This was probably one of the most exciting parts of season 3 for me, is that Veronica and Reggie were finally getting together, and they butchered it. She treated him like garbage. He was literally her errand boy that she used for sex. And the minute that Archie came back, she's like, "Bye, Reggie, I'm gonna be with Archie now." And then he even comes to her house and says that he wants to be with her, and she says she wants to be with him too. And then once Archie tells her, "Oh, I want to be with you," she just flat out leaves Reggie again. Ugh. I'm sorry, I just hate Veronica so much. She is so annoying and she's just the worst. So either that, or I could also see Veronica ending up with Cheryl, because I could see that as a great full circle story arc for the two of them. These two have a lot of chemistry, they have similar high-class upbringings, and I feel like they would do very well together, because I think that they've learned a lot from each other in season 1 particularly. I'm also sometimes a real sucker for that ship that does go full circle, and they start out kind of fighting all the time and disliking each other, like Ron and Hermione, or Han and Leia, and kind of even Ben and Leslie. I don't know why, but I also have this vision of an epilogue scene at the end of the series where it shows where all the characters end up, and I envision Veronica and Cheryl together in this huge house. They're married, engaged, whatever, they're living together, and one of them is sitting at the table, like, reading newspaper and drinking coffee, and the other one comes downstairs and is like, "You're up early, dear," and she kisses her on the cheek, and I don't know, I just think it'd be really, really a cute way to end the series with these two. So either Cheryl and Veronica, or Cheryl and Tony. I actually think they work really well together, and I really did enjoy their arc in season 2. You know why? Because it built character. Literally no story arc builds character anymore. This show is absolute garbage. I obviously couldn't talk about all of the ships in the show, so I'm sorry if there's one that you wanted to hear about that I didn't mention. If you have any questions about any ships that I didn't mention in this video, feel free to comment them down below, asking me my opinions about them. I would be more than happy to answer those. I don't know, like, what witty line I should end this video with. I usually try to end my videos with kind of a reference to what I've just been talking about. I'm just gonna leave it at thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, all that jazz. I hope that you have a great day and thanks for watching again. Bye!